For 3 years he couldn't walk. Korea's most feared crime boss was confined to a wheelchair after an assassination attempt left him paralyzed from the waist down. Then a desperate woman from Ghana kissed him in a crowded cafe, begging him to pretend to be her boyfriend, and something impossible happened.
They're here.
His legs moved. What started as a fake relationship to save her life became the miracle that would save his soul. Min-ho Choi was 32 years old when the bullet severed his spine. One moment he was walking out of a business meeting in Gangnam, the next he was on the pavement, unable to feel anything below his waist. The shooter was never caught. The message was clear: even the powerful can fall. For 3 years he'd lived in a wheelchair. The doctors said he'd never walk again, permanent paralysis, complete loss of motor function in his lower body. They spoke about his condition with clinical detachment, as if they weren't describing the end of everything he'd been. In the crime world, weakness was death. His enemies circled like sharks, waiting for him to falter. His own family questioned whether he should step down, let someone with working legs take over the Choi organization. But Min-ho was more dangerous in a wheelchair than most men were on 2 feet. He'd learned to weaponize people's underestimation. Let them think he was helpless, let them get close, then strike. He'd kept his empire through pure strategic brilliance and calculated ruthlessness. His mind was sharper than ever, his network more extensive, his reputation more terrifying. The man who'd ordered the hit on him had been found in pieces scattered across 3 districts. Still, there were things he'd lost: his independence, his pride, the simple ability to stand and look someone in the eye without having to crane his neck up. And love. Not that he'd ever really had that. There'd been women before the shooting, but they'd wanted his power or his money. After the shooting, they'd disappeared entirely. No one wanted damaged goods, especially not in his world where image was everything. He'd accepted his fate. This wheelchair was his throne now. He'd rule from it until someone finally managed to kill him. He never expected a miracle. And he certainly never expected it to come in the form of a terrified woman with a Ghanaian accent and the most beautiful eyes he'd ever seen. It was a Tuesday afternoon in October when Min-ho decided to do something he rarely did anymore: go out alone. Well, not entirely alone. His bodyguard Sung Min was positioned near the cafe entrance, and 2 more were in a car outside. But inside the small coffee shop in Itaewon, he was just another customer in a wheelchair, reading news on his tablet. He preferred the anonymity. Most people in Itaewon's international district didn't recognize him. Here, he was just a disabled man having coffee, not the notorious head of the Choi organization. He was reviewing financial reports when the cafe door burst open. A woman rushed in, her eyes wild with fear, her breath coming in gasps. She was African, late 20s, with natural hair pulled back in a bun and skin the colour of rich earth. She wore the simple clothes of a domestic worker, jeans and a plain jacket. She scanned the cafe desperately, and her eyes locked on Min-ho. Then she did something that would change both their lives forever. She ran straight to him, dropped to her knees beside his wheelchair, grabbed his face and kissed him. Min-ho froze in shock. Her lips were soft, trembling against his. Her hands on his face were shaking. And beneath the surprise, he felt something else. Something that hadn't stirred in 3 years. His legs. A tingling sensation. Faint, barely there but present. In legs that had felt nothing but phantom pain for 3 years. She pulled back just enough to whisper urgently, "Please, please play along. They're looking for me. Please, just pretend you're my boyfriend, just for a few minutes." Min-ho's mind, always calculating, assessed the situation instantly. 3 men had entered the cafe behind her, scanning the room. They looked like enforcers. Low-level muscle. And they were hunting this woman. He should stay out of it. This wasn't his problem. But something about her desperate courage, the way she'd thrown herself on his mercy, and that impossible tingling in his legs, made him decide differently. He reached up and cupped her face, pulling her back for another kiss. This one was slower, more convincing, and that tingling in his legs intensified. When they broke apart, he kept his hand on her cheek and said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, "There you are. I was starting to think you'd stood me up." Her eyes widened with gratitude and relief. "Sorry I'm late, baby. Traffic was terrible." She pulled up a chair beside him, sitting close, her hand finding his. Her palm was sweaty with fear, but she was smiling at him like he was everything. The three men were circling the cafe now. One of them approached their table. "Excuse me," he said in Korean. "Did you see an African woman come in here, running?" Min-ho looked up with the blank expression he'd perfected, the one that said harmless disabled man. He responded in Korean, "Just my girlfriend. She was running because she was late for our date." He smiled and switched to English, squeezing the woman's hand. "Wasn't she?" "Yes," she said, her English carrying a warm West African accent. "I'm so sorry I was late." The enforcer looked between them suspiciously. Then one of his companions called out in Korean, "She's not here. Must have gone around the block." They left. The woman sagged in her chair, still holding Min-ho's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much. I thought they were going to—" She stopped, tears sliding down her face. Min-ho found himself unwilling to let go of her hand. "Who are they?" "Debt collectors. I borrowed money from the wrong people to pay my mother's medical bills back home. I've been trying to pay it back, but they keep adding interest and now they want—" She shook her head. "It doesn't matter. Thank you for helping me. I should go before they come back." She tried to stand, but Min-ho tightened his grip on her hand. "Wait." She looked at him, confused and still frightened. "What's your name?" "Abena. Abena Mensah. Abena." He liked the way it sounded. "I'm Min-ho, and you're not going anywhere until you tell me who those men work for." "Sir, really, I've already involved you too much. Those men were Korean gang members. Low level, which means they work for someone, and whoever that someone is, they're in my city." His voice had gone cold, the harmless mask falling away. "No one hunts people in my city without my permission." Abena stared at him, seeing him clearly for the first time, seeing past the wheelchair to the power underneath. "Who are you?" "Someone who can help. If you let me." He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to Sung-min. "My bodyguard will take you somewhere safe. You'll tell him everything about this debt. And then we'll fix it. I can't pay you back." "I'm not asking you to." He finally released her hand, though something in him protested the loss of contact. "Consider it thanks for the kiss. It's been a long time since a beautiful woman kissed me." She blushed, making her even more beautiful. "I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to—" "Don't apologize. It was the most interesting thing that's happened to me in 3 years." Sung-min appeared at the table, having materialized from his position by the door. Min-ho gave him quick instructions in Korean, then turned back to Abena. "Go with him. You'll be safe. I'll be in touch." "Why are you helping me?" Min-ho looked at her for a long moment. "Because when you kissed me, I felt my legs for the first time in 3 years. Because you looked at me like I was a man, not a cripple. Because something about you makes me want to be better than what I am." But he only said, "Because I can." Before we continue with this impossible story, I want to know where you're watching from. Seoul, Accra, New York, Lagos, London. Drop your city in the comments. This story about miracles and unexpected love is reaching people everywhere, and I love seeing where you all are. And if this is your first time here, welcome to the channel where we explore redemption, impossible love, and the connections that change everything. That evening, Min-ho sat in his penthouse office, Sung-min standing before him with a report. "The woman's story checks out," Sung-min said in Korean. "Abena Mensah, 28 years old, from Kumasi, Ghana. Been in Korea for 4 years working as a housemaid. Borrowed 5 million won from a loan shark named Park Dae-ho to pay for her mother's cancer treatment. She's been making payments, but Park keeps increasing the interest. He's known for targeting foreign workers who have no legal recourse." Park Dae-ho. Min-ho's voice was ice. "Isn't he affiliated with the Kim gang?" "Loosely. He pays them tribute but mostly operates independently." "Not anymore. Send word to Park that his operation in my territory is done. He'll forgive Abena's debt entirely and leave Korea. If he refuses, make the alternative very clear." "Yes, boss." Sung-min hesitated. "If I may ask, why this woman? You don't usually involve yourself in individual cases." Min-ho touched his legs absently. He'd been doing that all evening, touching them, trying to recreate that tingling sensation he'd felt when Abena kissed him. It hadn't come back. But for those few moments he'd felt something, after 3 years of nothing. "She interests me," he said simply. "Boss, the doctor said—" "I know what the doctor said, but something happened today when she—" He trailed off. He sounded insane. "Just handle Park." After Sungmin left, Minho pulled up the security footage from the cafe. He watched it 3 times, watched Abena burst through the door, terrified, watched her spot him and make her desperate choice, watched her kiss him, and each time he watched it, he felt that phantom tingling in his legs. Psychosomatic, probably. His body responding to unexpected stimulus, nothing miraculous about it. But he couldn't stop thinking about her courage, her desperation, the way she'd looked at him with gratitude and something else, something warm. He picked up his phone and texted Sungmin, "Give me the address where you took her." Abena was staying in one of Minho's safe houses in Gangnam. A small but comfortable apartment, much nicer than the cramped room she'd been renting in Silimdong. Sungmin had brought her here, told her to stay put, that his boss would handle everything. She didn't understand what was happening. The man in the wheelchair, Minho, he wasn't what he seemed. The way his bodyguard deferred to him, the way he'd spoken with casual authority about his city, the expensive watch, the designer clothes despite the wheelchair. He was someone powerful, possibly dangerous, and he was helping her. Why? She was making tea in the unfamiliar kitchen when the door opened. She spun around, heart racing, then relaxed marginally when she saw it was Minho. He wheeled himself in, accompanied by Sungmin, who positioned himself by the door. "Your debt is forgiven," Minho said without preamble. "Park Dae-ho will no longer bother you. In fact, he's leaving Korea entirely." Abena felt her legs go weak. She sat down hard on the sofa. How did you do that?" "I asked nicely." "No one asks nicely and gets those kinds of results." Minho smiled slightly. "All right." I asked firmly, and made it clear that the alternative to compliance would be extremely unpleasant. "Who are you?" "Someone who doesn't like predators targeting vulnerable people in his city." He wheeled closer. "You're safe now, Abena. The debt is gone. You can go back to your life." She should feel relief, should thank him and leave. But instead, she felt something else. "Why did you help me?" "I told you. You kissed me. It was the most interesting thing that's happened to me in years." "That's not a real answer." "No, it's not." He looked at her with those dark, intelligent eyes. "The real answer is that when you kissed me, I felt something I haven't felt in 3 years. My legs. For just a moment I could feel them." Abena's eyes widened. "But you're paralyzed." "Completely. From the waist down. 3 years ago someone shot me, severed my spine. The doctors said I'd never walk again." He touched his legs. "They've been dead weight ever since. Until today." "That's impossible." "I know, but it happened, and I need to understand why." He held out his hand. "Will you help me?" She should say no, should thank him and leave and never look back. This man was clearly involved in dangerous things. Getting closer to him was asking for trouble, but she took his hand, and the moment their skin touched, she saw his eyes widen. "You feel that?" he whispered. "Feel what?" "My legs. They're tingling, like they're waking up." Abena looked down at his legs, then back at his face. His expression was wonder and disbelief mixed with hope. "This is crazy," she whispered. "I know." He tightened his grip on her hand. "But I need to see if it happens again. If we... He didn't finish the sentence, but Abena understood. "You want me to kiss you again?" "I know how it sounds. I know you're not obligated. I already paid your debt. You owe me nothing. But Abena..." His voice cracked slightly. "For 3 years, I've been half a man. If there's even a chance that somehow you're the key to fixing this, I have to try." She looked at this powerful, dangerous man, vulnerable in a way that clearly terrified him, asking for help, for hope. She leaned forward and kissed him. It was supposed to be clinical, an experiment, but the moment their lips met, something sparked between them. His hand came up to cup her face, and the kiss deepened, became real, and beneath them, Minho's legs began to tremble. He pulled back, gasping. Oh my God, I can feel them. I can actually feel them. Can you move them? He concentrated, his face tense with effort. And slowly, incredibly, his right foot shifted. Just a few centimeters, but it moved. Abina covered her mouth with her hands. Minho! Help me stand. His voice was urgent, desperate. Please, help me stand. She moved to his side, sliding her arm around his waist. He gripped her shoulder with one hand and the wheelchair arm with the other. Together they pulled him up. His legs shook violently. He couldn't hold his weight. But for 3 seconds, maybe 5, he stood. Actually stood on his own 2 feet. Then his legs gave out and he collapsed back into the wheelchair, breathing hard. I stood, he whispered, staring at his legs in disbelief. I actually stood. Abena was crying, she realised, crying for this man she barely knew, for the miracle she'd just witnessed. How is this possible? She asked. I don't know. He looked up at her, and his expression was raw with emotion. But you did this. Somehow you did this. You're my miracle, Abena. And in that moment, looking into his eyes, Abena felt her heart shift. This wasn't just about helping someone anymore. This was something deeper, something that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. She was falling for him. This dangerous, powerful man in a wheelchair who looked at her like she'd hung the stars. We should test it again, she said softly, to make sure it wasn't a fluke. Minho smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his face. I like the way you think. When he kissed her this time, there was nothing clinical about it. It was heat and hope, and the beginning of something neither of them could control. And beneath them, his legs continued to tremble with impossible life. Over the next 2 weeks, Minho and Abina met every day, always at the safe house, away from prying eyes. They told themselves it was about his recovery. Each time she touched him, each time they kissed, his legs responded more. The tingling became stronger. His ability to stand lasted longer. He could shift his feet, flex his toes, feel pressure and temperature. The doctors he consulted privately were baffled. Spontaneous recovery from complete paralysis was virtually impossible. They wanted to study him, run tests, understand the mechanism. But Minho refused. He knew they'd never find a medical explanation, because the only thing that had changed was Abina. But it wasn't just about his legs anymore. Somewhere between the therapy sessions and the long conversations, they'd fallen in love. She learned about his life. The crime family he'd been born into, the empire he'd built, the assassination attempt that had stolen his mobility, the loneliness of being powerful but untouchable, the isolation of being feared but never truly known. He learned about her dreams, how she'd come to Korea hoping to save money for university, to become a nurse, how that dream had died slowly under the weight of survival, how she sent every spare one home to support her mother and younger siblings, how she'd felt invisible in this country until the day she kissed a stranger in a cafe. You're not invisible, Minho told her one evening, his hand tracing patterns on her arm as they sat together on the sofa. You're the most visible thing in my world. You barely knew me 2 weeks ago. And now I can't imagine my life without you in it. He said it simply, like it was obvious fact. Abena's heart raced. Minho, this is moving so fast. I know. But when you've spent 3 years unable to feel anything, unable to move, every moment of sensation feels urgent. Every moment with you feels precious. He cupped her face. I'm in love with you, Abena. I know it's crazy. I know we're from completely different worlds, but it's true. I love you too, she whispered. I've been trying not to. Trying to be sensible. But I can't help it. He kissed her then, deep and slow, and beneath them his legs were growing stronger. By the end of the 2nd week, he could stand for almost 2 minutes, could take shuffling steps with support. His physical therapist, who knew nothing about Abena, was calling it a miracle, the most remarkable recovery he'd ever witnessed. Minho knew the truth. Abena was healing him. Somehow, impossibly, her presence, her touch, her love was bringing his body back to life. But miracles always came with a price. The threat came from within his own organisation. His uncle, Taiwan, head of the Choi family's enforcement division, requested a meeting. Minho couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. They met in Minho's office, Taiwan sitting across the desk with barely concealed contempt. You've been distracted, Taewon said in Korean. Missing meetings, making decisions slowly. The family is concerned. The family can voice their concerns directly if they have them. I'm voicing them now. There's a woman, a foreign woman. You've been spending significant time with her. Minho kept his face neutral. I wasn't aware my personal life required your approval. It does when it affects your judgment. This woman, she's Ghanaian, a housemaid, barely educated, and you've been neglecting your duties to spend time with her. I paid off her debt to Park Daeho. That's hardly neglecting duties. I was protecting someone in our territory. You drove Park out of Korea entirely over 5 million won. That's not protection. That's obsession. Taewon leaned forward. The family thinks you're getting weak. First the wheelchair made you vulnerable. Now this woman. Some are saying you should step down, let someone stronger lead. Someone like you? If necessary. Minho's voice dropped to a dangerous level. I've kept this organisation profitable and powerful for 3 years from this wheelchair. I've eliminated rivals, expanded our operations and protected our interests. My personal life is none of your concern. It is when it makes you a target, when it gives enemies leverage. Taewon stood. End it with the woman. Prove you're still capable of making hard choices, or the family will make them for you. After his uncle left, Minho sat in silence, rage and fear warring in his chest. He'd always known this moment would come, that loving someone in his world meant painting a target on them. He called Abena immediately. We need to talk, tonight. When Minho arrived at the safe house that evening, Abena knew immediately that something was wrong. His face was tense, his eyes shadowed. What happened? My family knows about you. My uncle came to see me. They want me to end things between us. Abena felt her heart sink. She'd known this was coming, had felt it in every stolen moment, every kiss that felt too good to last. Maybe they're right, she said quietly. Maybe I'm putting you in danger. You're not. They're just afraid that caring about someone makes me vulnerable. He reached for her hand. But they're wrong. You make me stronger. I make your legs work, that's not the same thing. No, you make me work. You make me want to be better than what I've been. You make me believe I can be more than just a crime boss in a wheelchair. He pulled her closer. Come away with me. Leave Korea. We'll go somewhere they can't reach us. Minho, you can't abandon your family, your organisation. Watch me. I've been planning my exit for months. I have money in offshore accounts, contacts who can give us new identities. We could go to Ghana if you want, or anywhere else. Somewhere we can just be together. Abena wanted to say yes. Wanted it desperately. But she'd learned that running from problems never worked. They'll hunt us. Your family won't let you just leave. They can try. I'm not afraid of them. But I am. I'm afraid of what loving you will cost, what it might cost you. Minho cupped her face, his touch gentle despite his words. I've already decided. With or without you, I'm leaving this life. But I'd rather leave with you. I'd rather build something new together than rule an empire alone. Abena felt tears streaming down her face. I love you. God help me. I love you so much. Then come with me. Trust me. Let me protect you. Before she could answer, the window shattered. Minho threw himself over Abena, pulling her down as gunfire erupted. Glass rained down on them. Bullets tore through the apartment, destroying furniture, punching holes in walls. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Minho lifted his head, checking Abena for injuries. Are you hurt? No. You? I'm fine. He reached for his phone, calling Sung Min. We've been hit. Safe House 3. Send backup. Now. But when he looked toward the door, his blood ran cold. 3 men were entering, guns drawn, and at the head of them was his uncle Taewon. I gave you a chance to end this quietly, Taewon said in Korean. But you're too far gone. The woman has made you weak, so we'll remove the weakness. He pointed his gun at Abena. Minho did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He stood up, no wheelchair, no support. He simply stood, his legs shaky but holding his weight, and placed himself between Abena and the gun. You'll have to go through me. Taewon's eyes widened in shock. You're standing. How are you standing? Miracle. Minho's voice was steady despite his trembling legs. Or maybe just love. Either way, you're not touching her. You can barely stand. You think you can fight. I think I can buy enough time for my men to get here, and when they do, you'll answer for attempting to kill me and my woman. Taewon's face twisted with rage. You'd choose her over your family, over everything we built? Yes, without hesitation. Minho reached back and took Abena's hand. Because she gave me something you never did, a reason to be more than a monster, a reason to heal. For a long moment the standoff held. Then sirens wailed in the distance. Sungmin's backup was close. Taewon lowered his gun. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You tried to kill me. That means war. And you know I've always been better at war than you. Minho's smile was cold. Leave now while you still can. Or stay and face the consequences when my men arrive. Taewon and his enforcers fled, just as Sungmin burst through the door with a team of armed guards. If you're feeling this story right now, if you're rooting for Minho and Abena despite the impossible odds, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next will test their love in ways they never expected. Drop a comment. Do you believe love can heal the impossible? Can a crime boss really walk away from everything? Let me know your thoughts. Minho collapsed back into his wheelchair the moment the adrenaline faded. His legs had held him for almost 3 minutes during the standoff. A new record. But they were useless now, trembling with exhaustion. Abena knelt beside him, checking him for injuries. You stood. You actually stood and walked. I had motivation. He caught her face in his hands. Are you all right? I'm fine. Scared, but fine. She pressed her forehead to his. Minho, this is too dangerous. Your uncle tried to kill us, which means we're leaving, tonight. He looked at Sungmin. Initiate exit protocol. Everything we planned. Boss, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He looked back at Abena. Unless you don't want to come. Of course I want to come, but what about your family, your organization? Sungmin will take over operations. He's been training for it, and my family made their choice when they tried to kill you. I'm making mine now. He kissed her softly. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. I'm choosing a life where I'm not a crime boss, but just a man who loves an incredible woman. Within hours, they were on a private plane to Accra. Sungmin had arranged everything. New identities, a house in a quiet neighborhood, bank accounts that couldn't be traced. Minho had enough money to live comfortably for several lifetimes. More importantly, he had Abena. 6 months later, Minho and Abena were living in a beautiful house in East Legon, Accra. She'd enrolled in nursing school, finally pursuing her dream. He was learning to walk. With daily physical therapy and Abena's presence, his recovery continued. He could walk with a cane now for short distances. The doctors in Ghana were amazed, calling it unprecedented. Minho didn't bother explaining. How could he explain that love had healed what medicine couldn't? They were married in a small ceremony with Abena's family. Her mother had cried, thanking Minho for saving her daughter. He'd told her the truth. Abena had saved him first. One evening, they sat on their terrace watching the sunset over Accra. Minho was standing, his arm around Abena's waist, putting weight on his legs without even thinking about it. Do you miss it? Abena asked. Korea, your old life? Not even a little. He turned to face her. That life was just survival. This is living. No regrets? Only one. That I didn't meet you sooner. That I wasted years being half a man before you showed me what it meant to be whole. She kissed him, soft and sweet. You were always whole. You just needed someone to remind you. I love you, Abena Choi. She smiled at her new name. I love you too. Now sit down before your legs give out. Doctor's orders. He laughed and let her guide him to the chair. But they both knew that soon, very soon, he wouldn't need the chair at all. Because every day with her he grew stronger. The paralyzed crime boss who'd stood up in a cafe had learned to walk again. Not through medicine or miracles alone, but through love. And sometimes, that was the most powerful force of all. That was the story of Minho and Abena, the crime boss and the maid, the paralyzed man and the woman whose kiss brought him back to life. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in love that heals and transforms, I need 3 things from you. First, hit that like button. Second, subscribe for more stories about redemption, impossible love, and the courage to choose happiness over power. Third, drop a comment telling me, what's the most impossible thing love has done in your life? I read every comment. Remember, the greatest miracles aren't always medical or supernatural. Sometimes they're as simple as one person seeing you completely, loving you anyway, and refusing to give up on you. This is the story of a man who couldn't walk and a woman who couldn't run. Two people who found each other in the middle of chaos and chose to build something beautiful from the broken pieces. Sometimes standing up isn't about your legs. It's about your heart. And sometimes the greatest act of strength is letting someone love you enough to heal you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.